I jammed the key into the lock. Turned. It stuck. I tried again, harder. The real estate manager beside me gave a tight smile clipboard tucked to his chest like armor. Click. I pushed the door open. Noise hit first, loud cartoons, a shriek of laughter, the slap of bare feet on hardwood. The house smelled like cheap candles and microwave popcorn. Tessa was sprawled across my couch shoes off hair in a bun, scrolling her phone. A meatball sandwich rested on a paper towel balanced on her thigh. One of the kids darted past me, trailing crumbs. The other sat cross-legged in front of the TV, sticky juice box in hand. She didn't flinch, just looked up, blinked once and said, "Oh. Hey, I didn't move." "You didn't call," she added lazily. "Grant said it's fine. We needed the space. If you've got a problem with it, call the police or something." The real estate manager shifted beside me. I heard the edge in his breath, heard the silence that followed. My silence. I scanned the room. My rug, Persian antique restored with my own hands, was buried under 2 beanbags and a collapsed laundry basket. A plastic play kitchen sat in the corner, duct-taped and lopsided. My coffee table, the one with the mosaic inlay, had crayon marks in every groove. I didn't blink. My bag slipped slightly from my shoulder. I gripped the strap hard until my knuckles turned pale. I felt the bones of my fingers ache, but I didn't let go. Tessa went back to her phone. "We're not hurting anything," she mumbled, thumb-tapping. "You weren't even using this place." I stepped inside, just enough to see the hook by the door. It was empty. That hook used to hold a spare key, the one I hid there after David passed when I couldn't keep track of anything. I never told her about it. Never gave her permission. The manager cleared his throat. "Ms. Caldwell, we can reschedule the walkthrough if this isn't—" "No need," I said. It was the first thing I'd said. My voice sounded foreign. Too calm. Too even. Tessa looked up. "You good?" I nodded. I turned around. Walked out. No slammed door. Just the quiet sound of it clicking shut behind me. The manager hesitated on the porch. That wasn't expected," he said, eyes flicking toward the window. I said nothing. Just stared down at the doormat beneath my shoes. It read, "Welcome," like a joke. The corner was curled stiff from months of sun and dust. I stepped off it. The sky was gray. The wind sharp. Somewhere inside, a cartoon character screamed and a child laughed. I didn't turn around. I walked toward the car, fingers still clenched tight around that strap, and the door I once paid for closed behind me without a sound. I slammed the cabinet shut. Coffee poured fast. No sugar, no cream. I carried the mug to the table and opened my phone. There it was, a bright, filtered photo of my living room, my second home, now littered with children's toys, a crooked welcome banner taped to the wall. Tessa's caption read, "Our new place. Fresh start." Feeling blessed, I stared at the image. The rug was there, half covered in crumbs. One of the kids was barefoot, standing on the arm of the couch, like it was a jungle gym. In the background, I saw the corner of my antique shelf doors open, contents gone. I set the mug down, harder than I meant to. Texted Grant. "Me. You let her move in without telling me. Read." No reply. I waited. 5 minutes. 10. No dots. No excuse. I grabbed my keys. Drove back. No real estate manager this time. No knock. I stepped onto the porch and pressed my hand to the glass. The blinds were drawn. I circled to the side gate. Unlocked. The trash bins were out, lids askew. One of them overflowed with cardboard takeout containers, broken toys. A cracked plastic bin sat next to it. Inside were framed photos mine. David and I, our son's the Lake Trip Grant's graduation. Every frame face down. I squatted slowly. Picked one up. The glass was cloudy. Smudged. I wiped it with my sleeve. Careful. Quiet. The cloth caught on a chip in the corner. David's smile looked dim through the grime. My jaw locked. Behind the bin, another bag had split open. Paper spilled out torn envelopes. Bills, junk. Among them, I saw it. Pale green, stamped with my name, the original utility contract for the property. I hadn't seen that in years, but I never threw it away. I reached in, unfolded it. The signature was mine. The address was mine. The account number, too. Someone had scribbled over the monthly balance in red ink, circled it like a target. I tucked the paper under my arm and stood. Voices floated from inside one of the children, whining, Tessa snapping back. A cartoon jingle played behind it all. I didn't knock. I placed the photo frame on top of the cracked bin. Upright this time. Facing out. Not hidden. Not flipped. Then I walked away. Not quickly. Not with fire. Just the weight of something old settling back into its shape. The porch light buzzed behind me. The screen door creaked, then stopped. I didn't turn. I walked the long way around the fence and toward the street, where no one waited and nothing interrupted me. The utility contract fluttered in my hand, its edges creased but intact. I parked across the street. No one greeted me. Porch light on front door wide. I walked in. Mom Grant called from the kitchen. "You made it." I stopped at the edge of the dining room. Table set for 5. 4 chairs taken, Grant, Tessa, the kids. 1 booster. No seat left for me. Grant looked up, shrugged. "We didn't think you were coming." Tessa didn't look. She opened a greasy box of off-brand pizza and dropped slices onto paper plates. "We're casual tonight. No need to fuss. Feels like a real home now, doesn't it?" The youngest spilled a cup of soda. No one moved to clean it. I stood for a long moment, then turned and pulled the piano bench from the hallway. I placed it at the far end. No one adjusted. No one paused. I sat, back straight. Hands flat on my thighs. The pizza smelled like rubber. I didn't touch it. Grant laughed at something one of the kids said. Tessa scrolled her phone between bites. This place was always too quiet before she said, "Now there's life in it." My eyes moved around the room. A shelf of mismatched mugs, dirty socks under the radiator, a hole punched in the drywall behind the entryway, and then, toward the back, a drawer by the hallway desk. That drawer used to hold the house binder, deed copies, HOA documents, repair receipts. Now it had a new handle, silver, lockable, installed clean. I stared at it longer than I should have, then blinked. Tessa's voice broke in. "Want a slice? There's one with olives left." "I'm fine," I said. The kids bickered. Tessa snapped. Grant got quiet. I didn't say another word. When dinner ended, plates stacked in a sticky pile, I rose, picked up my untouched plate, walked to the sink, and set it down without rinsing. Behind me, chairs scraped. The television clicked on. I didn't wait to be thanked or asked to stay. Didn't pretend this was normal. Didn't ask where the chair meant for me had gone. I walked through the kitchen, past the desk, past the locked drawer. I didn't try to open it. The front door stuck slightly from the damp. I pulled once hard and stepped out into the dark. The mailbox snapped shut. I stood on the porch with a stack of envelopes in my hand. Thick ones. Official ones. Red ink bleeding through paper. Past due. Final notice. HOA violation. I didn't open them right away. I carried them inside. Set them on the counter. Took off my shoes. Washed my hands like I always do, slow and thorough, as if dirt were the problem. Then I opened the first envelope. Electric bill. The second house. Usage doubled. Late fees added. My name at the top. Always my name. The next one was from the HOA. Lawn unmaintained. Trash bins left out. Unauthorized business activity reported by neighbors. Fine pending. Escalation if unresolved. I exhaled through my nose. Once. Another envelope. This one thinner. City notice. Business registration confirmation. Address listed in bold. My second home. Registered to Tessa. I sat down. Not hard, not slow. Just enough to feel the chair hold my weight. Images came without asking. Boxes on the porch, stacked high, labels torn, tape sloppily wrapped. Kids running between them like they were part of the furniture. I folded the first letter. Once. Clean crease. Set it aside. Folded the second. Same way. By the fifth letter, my fingers moved without thought. One fold. Straight line. No shaking. I took the red folder from the drawer, the one I bought years ago and never used. Slid the letters inside, labeled it with a black marker. Unpaid. The word looked heavier than it should have. The phone rang. I didn't answer. It rang again. I turned it face down. I drove past the second house that afternoon. Didn't stop. Just slowed enough to see the grass creeping up the fence line. A bike left on its side. 3 boxes on the porch, one already collapsing from rain. The place looked tired, used. Loud, even in silence. Back home, I sat at the desk and dialed a number I hadn't called in years. "Hi," I said when she answered. "This is Maris Caldwell. I have a question about my homeowner's policy." I listened, asked nothing unnecessary. "What happens?" I said carefully if someone is living there without my permission. A pause. Keys clicking. Her voice changed. More formal. "And if they're running a business?" Another pause. I wrote notes in the margin of an old envelope. Short phrases. No emotion. When I hung up, my hand trembled once. Just once. I pressed it flat on the desk until it stopped. That night, I took the red folder from the drawer and placed it on the center of the table where I couldn't avoid seeing it in the morning. I laid the folder on the desk and opened it. Paper slid against wood. Clean, familiar. The sound settled me. Elaine adjusted her glasses. She didn't rush. She never does. She flipped through the documents once, then again, slower this time. Deed. Title history. Tax records. The amendment I filed after David died. "It's still yours," she said. I nodded. I already knew. I needed to hear it anyway. They never had legal access. She continued. No transfer. No tenancy. No consent in writing. Nothing. My shoulders dropped a fraction. Not relief. Alignment. "I updated the title 4 years ago," I said. After they asked about refinancing. I didn't like the tone. Elaine looked up. A flicker of approval. Smart. I stared at the corner of the contract. The paper was thick, slightly textured. My index finger tapped it once, twice, 3 times. The motion was small, controlled. I felt my pulse slow to match it. "They changed the locks," I said. "Installed new hardware." "That doesn't matter. They registered a business there. That helps you." I breathed out, long, steady. Elaine closed the folder and slid it back to me. Then she reached under her desk and pulled out another one. Same size, same color, no label. She placed it between us and opened it halfway. Cease and desist. Formal, precise, already drafted. My name typed clean at the top. "I prepared this after you called about the insurance," she said. "Didn't send it, just in case." I didn't touch it right away. Outside, a car passed. Tires hissed on pavement. Somewhere down the hall, a printer whirred. Life going on as usual while mine tightened into focus. "They think I won't do anything," I said. Elaine didn't answer. She didn't need to. I reached forward and closed the second folder. The weight of it felt different. Heavier than paper, lighter than fear. They took the spare key I added. Elaine's mouth tightened. "That doesn't change ownership." I smiled then, not wide. not soft, just enough to feel the shape of it. I gathered both folders, stacked them carefully, slid them into my bag one behind the other like I'd planned it that way all along. When I stood, my knees didn't protest. My hands didn't shake. Elaine rose with me. "Call me when you're ready." "I won't need to," I said. "You'll hear." I walked out without turning back, the weight in my bag steady against my side, already moving toward the next step. I knocked twice, then waited. Tessa opened the door with one eyebrow raised. "Well, this is a surprise." I held up the coffee cake in both hands. "Thought I'd stop by. Didn't want the kids to miss out." She tilted her head slow and calculating, then stepped aside. "Kitchen's a mess, but suit yourself." I walked in. The living room was worse than before. Boxes towered against one wall, labels half peeled, some split open, to show plastic tubs and powder packets. A folding table near the window held rows of sample kits, a phone stand, and a cheap ring light. "I like what you've done with the place," I said. Tessa grinned. "Thanks. Gotta make it work." You know, I set the cake down and slipped my purse onto the counter. The phone inside was already recording. Screen, black mic, live. She poured 2 mugs of coffee. Mine went into the old chipped cup I used to keep here. The one she once said was too plain. We sat. I complimented the setup, asked harmless questions. "So, how's business?" "Looks like it's growing." "Oh, it is," she said, flipping her hair back. "I've got real investors now, actual people with money, coming to meet me next week." I nodded, traced the rim of my mug with one finger. Around and around. "Grant said I shouldn't stress," she went on. "Said his mom won't do anything. She just wants peace." "That's what she always says." My finger stopped. Tessa didn't notice. She picked up her phone and tapped at it, showing me a half-finished website. "I'm building out the brand now. This address gives it credibility you know feels high-end." I leaned in. "It does look professional." She beamed. Finally getting somewhere. The children screamed from the back room. She shouted something short and sharp without looking. I sipped. Bitter. She hadn't added sugar. She launched into a story about a recent customer barely pausing to breathe. I nodded. Where appropriate, asked 1 or 2 vague questions, never pushed. Boxes shifted in the hallway when the kids ran by. One toppled over. Capsules spilled onto the floor. She ignored it. When she turned to clean up the mess, I glanced at the purse. The phone screen was still dark, the mic still working. Tessa called over her shoulder. "Grant says I'm finally showing what I can do. That must be weird for you, huh?" I didn't answer. I finished my coffee, rinsed the mug, and set it carefully on the counter. I scanned the letter once, then again. 3 pages. HOA seal in the corner. Photographs stapled to the back. Overgrown lawn. Trash bins out all week. Boxes blocking the walkway. Unregistered commercial activity. Noise complaints. Violation issued. Final warning. Fines pending. I didn't respond. I didn't question it. I forwarded the entire thing to Tessa's email with no subject, no message, just the attached PDF. Then I opened a new message to Grant. Subject: final notice message. The HOA has issued a formal violation. You are not legal tenants. This is your final written notice to vacate by the end of the month. I attached a scan of the deed, dated, signed, certified. Then I hit send. The call came 10 minutes later. I let it ring twice. Picked up. His voice was clipped low. "How could you?" I stayed silent. "You're actually going through with this. After everything, you want the kids out on the street. You were never on the deed, Grant. That's not the point. It is the only point." He went quiet. Then louder. "You're choosing property over family." I said nothing. "You know what she's building and you'd rather tear it down. She built it on my foundation. You didn't have to go this far." I didn't raise my voice. "Read the deed." I ended the call. The phone stayed in my hand for a moment longer. My thumb hovered over the screen. The quiet afterward rang in my ears. Then the shake started. Just the smallest tremor in my right hand. I set the phone down and let it pass. I sat still until my breath came back even and low. When it did, I stood and walked to the desk, opened my laptop, typed the subject line. To Elaine Morrison. Subject. Will proceed. Message: I've gathered what we need. Let me know when to deliver the files in person. I clicked send. Then I walked to the table. The red folder was still there, quiet and waiting. I opened it, shifted the deed to the very front. I ran my hand once along its edge, straightened the paper, and left the folder open. I pushed the door open without knocking. Voices floated from the kitchen. 2 men, 1 woman. Laughter forced and shallow. I smelled perfume over brewed coffee. Something baked too long in the oven. I stepped inside. Tessa's voice rose above the rest. We've been here for a while now. Solid location. Strong curb appeal. Quiet street. Good neighbors. This place has really supported our growth. I walked past the couch, past the stacked boxes she'd tried to cover with a throw. Her ring light was on, casting sharp shadows on the wall. I saw her back first, hair-curled blazer stiff, a new clipboard in hand. She turned. For a second, no one spoke. I walked to the counter, set my folder down, unsnapped the clasp, took out 1 paper at a time. Deed. Cease and desist letter. Photos of code violations. Printout of the audio file transcript. I didn't say a word. Tessa blinked, then smiled a twitch. Not a real one. Mom Maris? It's not a good time. We're in the middle of one of the investors. Looked down at the papers. His brows pulled together. The woman stepped forward, squinted at the deed. Grant stood in the hallway, hands in his pockets. He didn't move. This house, I said, was never transferred, never gifted. No lease, no contract. My voice didn't waver. I turned the cease and desist toward them. Filed this morning. Effective immediately. Tessa laughed, short and desperate. She's joking. This is a family misunderstanding. Grant. She turned toward him. He didn't meet her eyes. The younger investor cleared his throat. You said your name was on the title. Tessa's mouth opened, closed. She reached for the paper. I slid it slightly farther from her hand. Violations pending, I said. Unlicensed business use. Fire hazard. HOA escalation already in process. No one sat down. No one touched their coffee. The woman stepped back first, then the younger man. The last one looked at Grant, then me. Said nothing. They left as quietly as they'd come. Tessa followed them to the door, still talking words, unraveling. I stayed where I was. When she came back in, her face had changed. Red, tighter around the eyes. You didn't have to do that here, she said. You could have. I reached out and adjusted the corner of the deed, made it square with the edge of the counter. She stared at me. Behind her, Grant still hadn't spoken. I turned, walked to the far shelf, reached up and pulled down the mug Tessa had shoved aside months ago, the plain ceramic one with a hairline crack mine. I set it in the sink, rinsed it slowly. Let the water run until the steam rose steady. Then I filled it with what was left in the pot and took a long, quiet sip. The truck filled fast. Boxes slid across the driveway. Plastic bins thudded against the tailgate. One of the kids dragged a stuffed backpack by the strap until Grant lifted it and set it down again. Tessa didn't look at me. She moved sharp, efficient, like she was packing anger instead of clothes. Grant carried the heavier boxes, arms tight, jaw locked. He stopped once, halfway between the door and the truck. Mom? I didn't turn. He waited. The silence stretched. Long enough for him to understand it wasn't going to break. He nodded to himself and kept moving. By sunset, the house was empty. No toys, no boxes, no noise. Just the echo of footsteps that didn't belong to me anymore. I watched the truck pull away from the curb. Didn't wave. Didn't follow it with my eyes. I closed the door. That afternoon, the locksmith arrived. Young, polite, didn't ask questions. He laid the old lock on the counter and handed me a new set of keys. "Try it," he said. I did. The key slid in clean, turned without resistance. The sound was small, precise, the way it should be. After he left, I sent the HOA an email. Change in occupancy. Violations addressed. Contact updated. They replied within the hour. A short confirmation. Neutral. Professional. I rolled up my sleeves. I cleaned every room myself, not because I had to, because I needed to see what remained. I wiped the counters, scrubbed the floor, picked up a crayon lodged under the couch leg, threw it away. I found a dent in the wall behind the door. Patched it. Smoothed it over with my thumb until it disappeared. By evening, the house smelled like nothing at all. I drove to the office the next morning, handed one spare key to the building manager. He took it without comment, logged it, locked it away. "Anyone else need access?" he asked. "No," I said. Back home, I stood at the front door for a moment longer than necessary. The new key was cool in my hand. I closed my eyes as it turned. The latch clicked. Solid. Final. I stepped inside. I took my mug from the sink, set it on the counter, wiped the rim once. Then I filled the kettle. I boiled the water. No rush. No sound but the slow roll of bubbles and the quiet tick of the kitchen clock. I scooped the grounds, measured by feel, poured steady, let it bloom. The mug waited on the counter. Same one Tessa called old-fashioned. Beige, plain. A thin crack near the handle sealed over time. I lifted the kettle, poured. The first drop landed clean, no shake in my wrist, no tremble in the glass. Steam rose. I breathed it in. No voices in the hallway, no TV in the background, no banging drawers, no complaints, no footsteps above my head, just the floor beneath me, the mug in my hand, the quiet. I carried the coffee to the table, sat at the head, the real head. No more folding bench, no need to find space. The chair didn't creak. I took a sip. It was strong, hot, exactly right. Across the table, the red folder lay closed now. Nothing left to add. I reached for my journal, flipped to the last page. At the top, what I still own. Below it, a list. Names of objects, some scratched out, some underlined, most unimportant. One line was circled, ink darker than the rest. My piece. I stared at it for a long time, not reading, just resting in the fact of it. The cup warmed my palms. My hand stayed steady. The house held its breath with me, and nothing asked to be explained. "Thanks for the visit," she said at the door, half smiling, already glancing back at her phone. "Of course," I said. Outside, I walked to the car. Slid in, opened my purse. I tapped the screen and saved the file. Proof 1.